Hello and welcome back to Not Overthinking. Taimur, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. I just had a call with Dylan from our members community. That was good fun. That was the start to my day.
How was that?
And yesterday I had an intense day of practice, mostly practicing guitar, and now my fingers on my left hand are absolutely destroyed.
Oh,
Like
nice.
it's unbelievable.
Have you got like the lines in the fingers?
Yeah, I've got the lines. The thing is, I've had the calluses for like I don't know a week or two now. So like it doesn't hurt on the surface in the same way that it used to. But now the pain is actually a few layers deep. Like when I put pressure, I feel like a different kind of pain. It's not like a surface level. It's not a pain on the surface. I feel like the nerves inside my finger have been like attacked or something.
Okay. I mean,
It's mad.
they probably have.
Yeah.
um, have you thought about taking a break from guitar maybe for a few days?
Yeah, I think I went quite hard yesterday, and now it actually just really hurts. So I think I will need to take a break for a few
Okay.
days.
Have you got a capo yet?
I do have a capo, yeah,
Okay. Because capo on 3 or capo on 5 is a more chill way of playing the same stuff.
yeah.
But
But guitar's really fun. I'm really glad I took it up. It's starting to make sense, I think.
nice. What's your model for the guitar? Like your mental model?
Okay, my mental model is like I know what the strings are, like I know what the notes on the strings
Oh,
are
you
and
do?
stuff.
I don't. I still have to go E B G D A E every time.
Well, no, I know that I know that those are the notes on the strings,
Okay.
and then I've like memorized some chord shapes,
Okay.
and then from one, if I like if I'm playing a G chord or something, based on the fact that I know the shape and I know the notes on the strings, I'll then know, if I want to make it a seventh or something, I'll know what I need to like, I can figure out what I need to press
Hold
down or
up.
something.
Back the up. You're saying when you play a G chord, you just know what notes you're playing.
Sorry?
You're saying when you play a G chord, you actually know which notes you're playing.
No, it look like for example, if I'm playing the G chord and then
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I want to like play G7 or something before I
Yeah.
go to the next chord,
Yeah.
then I'll sit there and for about five seconds and think, okay, so okay, so this is the seventh or whatever. So like it takes manual processing to figure that stuff out. Or if I'm like playing the chord and I'm like, okay, I want to like do something where I, play a couple of notes, you know, and then go to like the next thing, then like in sort of 10 seconds I can figure out those notes and then, that kind of thing. So I think knowing the chord shapes plus knowing what the default strings are,
Okay.
that's
That's
kind of where I'm at now. And
that's
so then I
pretty
can I,
impressive.
I can figure out some middle stuff.
That's like a level above where I am at, and I've been playing guitar for like 6 years at this point.
What do you mean? Like, what are you doing on it?
Like this is the stuff I'm actively working on it in terms of like when I play a G chord, like knowing instinctively what, for example, if I play a G chord on the piano,
Hmm.
I just know it's like a G, B, and a D because I
Right.
know
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
just know that those are the notes. Whereas on
Yeah.
the guitar, I don't know that those are the notes. It's like I know I'm playing a G on the bottom string. The next one is like, oh God, right. So that's an A string. So that's a B. I think I'm playing a B on the next one. You know that sort of vibe.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically what I've described. Like, it takes like 10 seconds or something to figure out where you're at and figure out
Okay, and then you're thinking you want to
everything.
play a G7, therefore I want to add in an F or something.
It, yeah. Yeah.
And then you think, okay, what's the easiest way to add in an F? So maybe I put like, first fret on the E string.
Yeah. Something like that.
Okay,
But in
interesting.
this case, you wouldn't do. I don't think you'd do that. But yeah.
Yeah, the way that I've always thought of it is basically if there is a 7 in the song, I ignore the 7.
Oh. Wow. Okay.
And if I absolutely have to, there are those patterns like a G bar chord. If you take the pinky off, it becomes a 7.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's I think in terms of those sorts of patterns rather than in terms of
Interesting.
what are the actual notes I'm playing. But I'm trying
Okay.
to get more to that level of actually having an understanding of what I'm playing rather than just I'm going to start with a claw, then I'm going to go into the old lady, then I'm going to go into the bear, which is like basically how I've been playing guitar for the last 6 years.
Yeah. 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 I think it depends on the songs, right? Because like I learned Hey Jude last week,
Oh, that's
and
good to have sevens in it.
yeah, that like a lot of what gives its feel is like the sevens that are thrown in
Mm.
there, and so you can't really have Hey Jude without without the
Uh,
sevens, right?
I think you'll find you can. It just won't sound a lot like Hey Jude.
Yeah, but no, it's really fun. I I'm currently learning Brown Eyed Girl, which is my favorite song and the best song. And I think after I'm happy with that,
Hmm.
then I want to start learning some like fingerstyle stuff because yeah, I think I really bought the guitar to learn Brown Eyed Girl because it's not the same on the piano.
Okay.
Like there's particularly like the percussive aspect of it. I can't really recreate it on the piano. And so I think once I have that down, then I'll try and move on to some greener pastures.
That's a pretty rogue song. Like, why Brown Eyed Girl of all things?
It's just an absolute banger. No, I think it's because like I think there's some nice sort of syncopation in there. Um, and I think I've always just like been really into that.
Do you want to give us a quick rendition while we're here? 'Cause
Brown Eyed Girl.
I don't know what the song goes like other than "You're my brown eyed girl."
All right, let me get the guitar.
Go
Awesome.
for it. You got this.
This is Brown Eyed Girl. Hey, where did we go? Days when the rains came down in the hollow, playing a new game, laughing and a running, hey, hey, skipping and a jumping in the misty morning fog with our hearts thumping in you, my brown-eyed girl. You, my brown-eyed girl. So
Nice.
something like that.
Mate, that's really good.
I need to get a lot more cleaner and faster at switching between the chords.
That's actually so sick.
And it still currently takes too much thinking for me to actually play the stuff, so then I can't really focus on the singing too much. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Mate, that's fantastic. I think
Thank you.
this is a real good illustration of how, like, when you say you bought the guitar to learn Brown Eyed Girl, I imagine there are a lot of people who are like, oh, I want to learn the guitar, but which is similar to I want to learn to code. But if you don't have a defined project to work towards, it's actually very hard to just learn the guitar or just learn to code, unless you go
Yeah.
to org/not overthinking. But like having that project, I think was really good. There's a lot of people I know who learned the guitar in order to play Icy Fire from
Okay.
and I bought the guitar to learn how to play Tears in Heaven when I saw someone play Tears in Heaven. And
Oh,
it was
nice.
so
Yeah,
sick.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, man, I need to learn how to play Tears in Heaven.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Nicely
Nice.
done.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
How long have you been playing it so far?
I think it's been like 6 or 7 weeks now.
Okay.
But really, I think on Saturdays I practice a decent amount. So I probably practiced like a couple of hours yesterday.
Okay.
And then during the week, it's just like, I don't know, a
Noodling.
few minutes in between activities and stuff like that. But I think a few minutes is kind of what you need to just get more quicker with things.
Yeah. Like, do you do deliberate practice, or is this, I guess you're at the stage where even just playing that same song over and
Yeah,
over makes you
yeah,
fast
yeah,
at
yeah.
it.
Like that is deliberate practice.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So that's kind of the big thing in my life at the moment. How are things with you?
Things are good. I feel like it's been a long time since we've chatted.
Yeah, we didn't do a podcast last week. We've actually had a couple of bad reviews saying like, stop with the in between episodes.
Or would people rather we don't put out an episode at all, or?
Wait, let me see the reviews. Okay, there's a review saying, this is me raising my opinion. It's a 3-star review. Not loving the inconsistency, my man. Neither the filler episodes. And then the next review is, love the podcast, but please stop the Ali filler episodes. Hey guys, I've been listening to the podcast from the start and I'm a big fan, but I really don't like the in-between episodes. They feel like an extension of Ali's YouTube channel, which I don't think fits the vibe of the podcast. I listen to the podcast because I find it really enlightening and positive, particularly hearing Taimur's viewpoint on a lot of things. The in-between episodes are more focused on the hustle/grind, and without Taimur there to rebut with an Agnes Callard quote, it just doesn't work. Yeah, what are the... I don't listen to the in-between episodes myself. What are they generally about? Is it just like hustle, stuff?
I think that's an unfair characterization. I think some of them are about
Okay.
the hustle stuff. Like the one we had a few weeks ago with Justin Khan was about actively not the hustle stuff, about
Yeah.
like burnout and
Oh, I listened
mindfulness.
to that one actually. That was really good. Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I think there was one with Brandon Sanderson, which I guess was more about the hustle and stuff. If you call like the art and the business of writing hustle, like it's a bad thing. The one last week was with a journalist called Anna who has written a book, I guess about how to work for yourself. And so we were talking about her life as a sort of freelancer and like
Yeah.
what it takes to, I don't know, make it in that world and how long it
Okay.
takes to, yeah. So I will,
It sounds fairly hustly. Look,
yeah,
I've got nothing against it.
I guess you could brand that one and the Sanderson one as like this is a hustle thing. But
Yeah, but I did enjoy the Justin Khan one.
yeah, I think the real issue is that when we don't do an episode, we can't just not do an episode because we have a sponsor lined up for it. And so I need to talk to the sponsors and be like, I'd be interested to hear from you guys, like listeners, if you comment on YouTube, would you rather we don't have in between episodes at all, and if we skip a week, we just skip a week? Because we can probably make that happen. I can probably just message a sponsor, be like, "Hey, brilliant, sorry,
Yeah,
didn't do an episode this
without
week."
lads.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
just really tired, so please don't pay us for this one. Let's just do it next week instead. Yeah,
yeah.
maybe
On
that would
that
be the
note,
way forward.
I
Yeah.
think the YouTube thing is interesting. We seem to get a fair amount of comments on the YouTube videos, which is quite cool. So if you do consume the podcast but you haven't checked out the YouTube channel, that might be a nicer way to consume it, because then there's a bunch of comments from other people and you can kind of engage.
The other big thing in my life is, in fact, WeWork.
Oh,
Yeah, I've been WeWorking for the last like 2 weeks.
yeah,
For the uninitiated, WeWork is a kind of co-working space. A co-working space is this place where you go to hang out with other people and you all kind of work together. Well, no, it's not quite that. It's like you go to it's like a big kind of library where everyone just goes and does their own thing, but it's like got startup vibes. So there's like a table tennis table, table football table. There's like free tea, free coffee. They even have a beer tap, which is out of action these days. What a shame, thanks to COVID. And it's just
yeah,
like a generally nice. They've got like these soundproof pods where you can just go in for half an hour at a time to if you have a phone call to take. And WeWork is interesting because they've got like dozens of these co-working locations all around the world in like major cities. So in the UK, there's like 5 of them in London. There's like one in Cambridge, Oxford, Edinburgh, Birmingham, etc. And they've got this like they were hit really hard by COVID because obviously no one was going to co-working spaces, and they also had a disastrous like IPO where there was some like, I don't quite know the full details about this, but my understanding is that they tried to go public, but then there was all sorts of dirt that was dug up about like the founders and how they kind of scammed money from the company, and basically a really bad like PR state for them. And so I just hadn't really like I'd heard the news around this like I don't know a year or two ago when it happened. And then the other day, I was speaking to another YouTuber friend of mine called Hannah Witten, who was sort of gushing about this new like studio space that she's got and how amazing it is to have like an office to work in. And so I just kind of Googled co-working spaces Cambridge, and WeWork came up as like, and I was, oh yeah, there is a WeWork in Cambridge.
yeah,
And so I spoke to someone on their sales team within like a few minutes, and I was like, yeah, I'm genuinely interested. Me and my team members, like, what would this cost? And it's around about 300 quid a month per person for like their hot desk membership thing, where you can just rock up and use any of the desks. I was like, oh, okay, bit expensive. And then he was like, we actually have a 30-day free trial on. And I was like,
oh,
what? You do? And he was like, yeah, do you want to sign up for it? I was like, yes. When can I start? He was like, well, we can start from right now if you like. So I just signed up to the 30-day free trial, and I signed up me and Angus and Sheen as part of my company. So
yeah,
we all
yeah,
have this 30-day free trial to WeWork where we can just rock up 24/7, use the facilities, play table tennis, play table football, take advantage of free tea and coffee.
yeah.
And this has been actually so sick, like to be able to go to work and go to a place outside the house. So like yesterday morning, I woke up at like 6 a.m. or something, because then I couldn't go back to sleep. So I just cycled over to WeWork at like 8, and I spent the
Well,
whole day there. And Angus came over, Lucia came over, my friend Matthew came over. So like I've basically messaged everyone I know in Cambridge to be like, guys, this WeWork thing is sick. And
yeah.
now we all kind of go there together to have co-working sessions, which is really nice.
That sounds like a blast. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's actually so sick. I'm never going back to the work from home lifestyle. It is literally not the one. It's so much better to just be able to cycle for 10 minutes
Yeah.
to WeWork and just kind of sit there doing exactly the same stuff, just not at my desk.
It's all about the commute and the office.
It's all about being in the office from 9 to 5, having a lunch hour.
Clear separation between work and life.
No, it's actually so sick. The other, so I'm actually going to go straight after this podcast recording.
Oh wow. Okay.
I've got a call with our friend Paul Millard in about an hour and a half.
Oh,
So I'll
awesome.
take.
What are you guys chatting about?
He messaged me. I think he's writing something about. Oh, he's interested in people who have done the anti-hustle life and then are going back into work and what that experience is like. So
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sort of on the verge of going back into medicine to do like locum shifts and stuff.
Right. Okay.
So he was interested in chatting about that. So yeah, going to take that call from WeWork. A few other people are going to join just to
Yeah.
hang out. And there's no one around on Saturdays and Sundays there, so it's like we have this huge ass office space to ourselves. It's like having your own personal private
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
hotel lobby times five because it's
Yeah.
huge. And yeah, I'm now actually, so the trial's going to expire in about 2 weeks, and so I'm definitely going to get like a membership to it. But I'm even considering trying out their office space situation. They also have this ridiculous deal. It sounds like it's sponsored by WeWork. They have this ridiculous deal on where it's like if you book a free tour of an office space, you can have that office space for free for a month without any other commitments.
Wow.
And so I hope no one at WeWork is actually listening to this because my friend Matthew has booked a tour of an office like 2 days from now. And the hustle we're going to try and pull is that we should probably cut this out. No, it's fine. The hustle we're going to try and pull is that Matthew has a team of 10 people
Ah,
and is
that's a lot of free
considering
tours.
moving into the office space for his team of 10 and would therefore like a 10-man office for a
Oh
month
wow.
for
Okay.
free. And when you have an office, it means you can get 10 team members who all have card access to the building 24/7. And so like me, Angus, Sheen, Matthew, like Lucia, all of our friends in Cambridge are going to be
Yeah.
part of Matthew's entourage. So the other day we were because Matthew's a professional magician, so we were trying to figure out like, okay, I'm going to be the videographer, Lucia is going to be the social impact, corporate social responsibility person, Angus is going to be the operations
Yeah.
officer, just in case they ask, be like, why do you have a team of 10 people as a magician?
Yeah.
Like,
There's a lot of children's parties.
yeah, so I'm actually just loving the WeWork life. Never going to go back.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds like a really great setup right now where it's super cheap and there's no one else around. But having frequented WeWorks in London, pre-COVID, I think there is a lot less charm when there's actually lots of people around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
Sorry?
Isn't it good if you see people around instead of just being there on your own?
I don't know. So like in early 2020 slash late 2019, Lucas and I toured a couple of WeWorks just to see, what's the vibe? Do we want to get that? And we just like conclusively decided that it's way better to just have our own flats where we can just work from there and stuff like that. Yeah, I think WeWork seems sick when it's empty, but I think you'll feel differently about it when there's more people.
Okay. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I feel like as well, like if you and Lucas were like getting a flat together to have like as like your own space, I think that would be like a level above the WeWork, which is more like a, co-working space membership kind of vibe.
Oh, okay, right.
I think if you were on your own in a flat to work in, it would be a lot less
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That would be
So
tame.
I think the insight, the thing there was the fact that you and Lucas were like together.
Oh, okay, right.
And I think even in that context, I would still pick a WeWork office just because of the flexibility. You can just get it for a month at a time, and all the things, all the furniture and stuff is taken care of. You just bring your iMac to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas a flat is more of like a lifestyle type setup that you guys had.
Yeah, it's definitely lower optionality, but that's what I'm about.
Yeah, man. So that's what's new in my life. Started cycling again. That's been nice.
Where did you get your haircut from? It's looking a bit weird right now, but I think in your recent video it was looking quite banging.
Oh yeah, thank you. A barbershop called Mr. Polito in Cambridge.
Okay. So you just go there and tell them like, hey, a little off the top. Like, what is it?
No, that was my circumcision.
Wow, okay.
I went with my friend Ahmed, who is a very stylish kind of guy who has good hair, and he was like,
Yeah.
"Look, Ali, we need to change your style up," and I was like, "Sick." He was like, "I'm gonna come with you to the barber." I was like, "Perfect. You can tell him what to do." So he like gave the instructions. He was like, "Yeah, I'm thinking we like do a little bit off the top," and that was it.
Oh, okay.
And then the guy just kind of went went to town, and I thought it was a little bit short initially, but then I looked at my old videos where I had my whole scraggly hair and scraggly beard, and I thought, "Oh my
Yeah.
God, how could you let me live like this? Why didn't you tell me I need to sort this out, man?"
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the scraggly beard. I mean, I like the scrag. Like, do you think my hair looks scraggly right now?
I think your
I
hair
think it
looks
looks
like
bad.
actually reasonably okay.
Okay.
Have you had a haircut, or are you still scraggly mode?
I'm still scraggly mode.
Oh, it looks pretty alright. Have you been on the finesse trade?
I have, yes, yeah.
It looks like more voluminous than it was like 2 months ago.
Yeah, I'll probably have a haircut sometime soon.
Yeah, I think like I'm gonna I'm gonna do like the adult thing whereby you get a haircut and then there and then you book your appointment for the next one, so it's in the calendar like 4 weeks
Is
from
that a
now
thing?
or something.
Do people do that?
Yeah, people do that. When I go to
Whoa.
like the if I in like a proper hairdresser barber salon where they do appointments, even when they had a barber at the hospital where I was working, this is what most women would do this. Most dudes
Okay.
wouldn't do this, but like I was like, oh, that's actually a really good setup. Where it's like, would you like to book your next appointment? Well, yes. Because I think with a
Why?
haircut is that it's one of those things that you only like. For me, I only really think about it when it gets too much. I'm like, oh shit, I really
Oh,
need a
okay. When
haircut.
it's really bad, yeah.
But that's like suboptimal.
Okay.
It should be like every month I have a haircut because it's just it
Okay,
keeps
it's
me
just part of
presentable.
hygiene, yeah.
Yeah, rather than but with my nails, it's like when I notice my typing speed slowing down, I think, okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
now it's time to cut the nails. And I did your thing. I bought an extra nail cutter just to have in my bag at all times.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
now
it's
that I'm in
got
WeWork, and I'm like, oh, I'm typing. I can just go to the bathrooms and do a little clipping.
Mate, the bag nail cutter is an absolute no-brainer. Everyone needs to carry a cutter in their bag at all times. Like the amount of times it saved my life is just incredible.
But yeah, that's what's new with me. Anything else new? We've done a restructuring of the company and
What does
giving
that mean?
sort of drawing out an org chart for the 8 people in my team and figuring out people's defined roles and stuff like that. We did quarterly reviews,
Oh,
quarterly performance reviews for the first time this
how did
quarter.
that go?
It was actually really, really good. So Sheen put together like a whole list of questions, and I sent them to everyone individually to fill out before our quarterly review meeting. And we had quarterly, and like some of the people like Angus and Christian were like, "Oh, quarterly, like this sounds so corporate." And in
Yeah.
my head, I was thinking, "Okay, this sounds really corporate and bad as well. Like this does not sound like my vibe." But then we did them, and they were like, "Oh my god, this is so helpful."
Yeah.
And there was some like hard truths that came out of them, and like a really good info for me to take on point. And yeah, I just realized that okay, yeah, there's a reason why people do like quarterly performance reviews. It's like a very useful thing.
Yeah. Did you get any good feedback for yourself to improve as a boss?
Yes,
You,
mostly it was
do you
around,
mind sharing it with us?
of course, mostly it was around clarity of communication and clarity of like what I actually want done.
Okay.
Because I think my problem is that I would like often like come up with an idea, just post it in the Slack, and then nothing would come of it because I don't know, like I
Okay.
think
Yeah. Yeah.
a project without someone in charge of it and without
Mm.
clear objectives, like what are we actually trying to do? It's really very hard for anyone to execute on that. And so in my head, I'm sort of like, oh, it's just an idea, and everyone's kind of doing their own thing, and that's fine. But actually, just being a bit more like having things written down and
Mm.
stuff. Because I think when we were like a team of like 2 or 3 people, it was easy enough. Like we were all talking together so much that it's like, oh, let's do this thing, cool, and then we'll hash it out in a Slack message thread there and then, and it would
Mm.
get done. Whereas now we're 8 people, it's like, okay, that that doesn't work anymore. So there does need to be a level of bureaucracy in a way, which is the wrong
Right.
word, but like a level of actually having clear objectives, having stuff written down. And so
Mm.
over the weekend, when I was in WeWork with Angus, Lucia, and Matthew, we were like on using one of the whiteboards in one of the conference rooms that was just empty, and really trying to figure out what are the actual goals of the business, what are we actually trying to do here, and then can we, trying to come up with like a mission statement, which like I was sort of chuckling internally because it just sounded had I thought
Mission
I'd be doing
statement.
this a few years ago, I would have been like, what the hell is a mission statement? Like, who cares? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
etc. But now it's like, oh my God, I see why companies have mission statements and why it's
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
so hard to come up with one. And why, when you're not in that world, if you read a company's mission statement, you're going to think, well, this is the most vague, abstract BS possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But actually, there was probably like 3 months of deliberation that went into crafting that abstract BS. And I was thinking, damn, this is actually a lot harder than it looks.
So what's your mission statement?
So the thing we landed on was that we help. What was it? We help people do more of the things that matter to them.
Okay.
This was after about 4 hours of being like,
Nice.
what are we actually trying to do here? Other contenders was like, we help people get more done while having more fun. then it's like that didn't quite feel right. The fun thing was it's like legit, but like we're not really all about fun, and we're not really all about like, getting more done. It's actually about doing the things that actually matter to you. And then it was like, oh, but that sounds too close to we help people realize their potential, which sounds like too abstract. And it was like there's it's similar with the book writing process as well, where the more you simplify something, the more you simplify something, there is a point at which you simplify it to a cliche that everyone knows.
Yeah.
That's totally obvious.
Yeah.
A level or two before then is where you're saying the same thing, but
Right.
in a slightly roundabout way that feels not entirely that obvious and feels a
Yeah.
little bit
Yeah.
more insightful. And so our thing about like, yeah, real like we help people. So it's like one of the elevator pitches for the book is that yeah, it's like the core message of the book is going to be something around the lines of the hidden secret behind the hidden secret to productivity is to learn to enjoy the journey, or words to
Okay.
that effect. And like the point of the book is to help people do more of the things that they want to have done, but they can't bring themselves to actually do,
Okay.
or
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like that, which to some people sounds like okay, that kind of works. But if you simplify it too much, you get to a point. The point of the book is to help people follow their dreams. It's like,
Yeah.
no, that's not that's too much.
Yeah.
There is a level or two above that where it sounds a little bit more okay. Yeah, I can get on board with that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, just been doing that sort of stuff, and now we're trying to figure out okay, now if our objective is to if you have the tricky thing on this, and I'd love to get your take on this, is company mission statements and elephant in the brain, right? So like our mission statement allegedly is to help people do more of what matters to them.
Yeah.
But elephant in the brain wise, the reason a big part of the reason why I'm doing this business and why anyone does any business is because it's fun and because it makes money. But that's
Yeah.
like a very selfish reason for doing a thing, and it's not. And so I found it really weird to be trying to craft a mission statement that didn't include. Oh, and
Make money.
also I can personally have fun and make money and get status and prestige along the way,
Yeah. Yeah.
because that is like 85% of why I'm doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And the benefit to others is like 15%. And if I didn't have the impact to myself, I probably wouldn't be doing this. And it feels very disingenuous to craft a mission statement, think like pretending that the reason you're doing it is altruism, but knowing that a big chunk of the reason you're doing it is money, fame, status, prestige, fun, etc. What do you think?
I think it just depends on what level of resolution you're looking at, right? So like if you ask someone, yeah, here's an example for you. Like there's an old joke from I can't remember what video game it's from, but it's something like lack of oxygen is my only weakness or something like that. Some like villain in a video game says this, which is kind of a joke because when people die, my understanding is most of the time when someone dies, the actual thing that kills them is lack of oxygen to the brain. Okay, and so I mean, is that correct? It may or may not be. I don't know.
It may or may not be.
All right.
Well, that's me.
All right. So let's say it's correct.
Yeah,
Like
let's
at,
pretend.
at
Yeah.
its core, the reason people die is because their brain doesn't get enough oxygen. But if you ask, if like a patient dies or something, you ask why they died. Yeah, you're talking to the family, and they're asked, "Oh, what happened?" And you're just like, "Well, I hate to break it to you, but the brain ran out of oxygen." When actually they died of like cancer or whatever, right? Like there are levels to these things, and I think the like make money and get social status and stuff is in a way the kind of lack of oxygen explanation where like sure you could go to that level and basically say that everything is for that reason, but it's not terribly useful. Whereas you need to be at the level of like cause of death being like something a bit more
A bit more concrete.
a bit
Lack of
more
oxygen.
concrete. Like I don't know what causes of death are.
Unless it actually, I mean, the stuff happening in India these days is very much a lack of oxygen that's killing people. But
Right? Yeah.
yeah, I know. I see what you mean.
Well,
It's
no, no.
like
I mean, look. For example, if someone dies of coronavirus, and you're like, well, it was a lack of oxygen to the brain. that's less useful than saying they died of
no,
coronavirus,
sure.
right?
Yeah, yeah. So, for example, if you're writing a death certificate, you might write, lack of oxygen to the brain as caused by coronavirus.
Okay,
There's
right.
like
Yeah,
a section on deaths of like caused by, and
yeah.
so on.
And so in your case, it seems like, yeah, I don't think you're necessarily being disingenuous by saying like, oh, we want people to work on more of the stuff that matters to them or something.
Yeah,
Because I think the making money and the status thing,
it's like that oxygen level of. No, that's a
yeah,
good point. It's like how, there are some people that say all human behavior can be boiled down to, I'm just trying to get laid.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like, well, okay, fine. If you're gonna abstract, okay, fine, whatever, safe status.
yeah.
But it's not a particularly helpful way of looking at most problems in life. And now we have to sort of think, okay, so now that's our mission statement. Now, what are our like kind of business objectives based on that? And even there's some level of like elephant in the brain nest there, because are we sort of make more online courses? Yes, it helps people do more of the stuff that matters to them, but it also makes us revenue. And then you could pretend that the reason we want to make revenue is so to help further our mission of helping more people get more done.
Right, yeah, that's the thing. Like, what are you actually going to say no to as a result of this mission statement? I think that is the the crucial thing about like values and missions and stuff is what are you going to not do as a result of this?
Oh,
And
okay.
like
Interesting.
if you could make a quick buck churning out another course that like if you're honest with yourself, it's already covered via some of your existing courses. If
Yeah.
you could churn out another course, productivity for X vertical, even though it's basically the same content as like
Yeah.
some general product.
Yeah.
Like, would you really not do that because you think of that about the mission?
I mean, I think productivity for X vertical would be in line with the mission
All right,
anyway.
fine, whatever. But like as something where, yeah,
I mean, okay,
you
if I
page
if I
growth
if
makes
I
some
had the
money.
choice to set up an OnlyFans to make a quick buck, I wouldn't do that.
Okay, well that's very far
Yeah,
removed from
exactly.
what
So
you
like,
do.
that's a very kind of extreme example. So I'm just trying to think like, what would I not do as a result of knowing that this is the mission statement? I think it does help me say, okay, so I think that's a mission statement, but there are sort of sub missions underneath that, and one of them is that I want to become, I want to increase my brand as a sort of thought leader around this sort of stuff.
How is that something of the mission? That just sounds like a side quest that you want to do.
No, because like for example, Tim Ferriss can help people do the stuff that they want to do because he's Tim Ferriss, whereas Joe Blogs will find it difficult to have impact at that scale. For example, wait, you had a skeptical look on your face. Surely
I mean,
you're not going to take issue with that,
okay,
right?
I agree with that. I'm curious as
Okay,
to where you're going to take this.
okay. Therefore, if Tim Ferriss's ultimate aim is, for example, to encourage mass adoption of psychedelics all around the world, a reasonable way or a reasonable kind of sub quest along that path is for him to become famous himself
Yeah, sure.
and have influence over people in a way such that he can then affect change at an industrial
Yeah,
level.
sure. Yeah, yeah.
And so for me, sort of one of the sub goals is become more famous as a sort of thought leader. It's not become more famous for doing some viral thing. It's not become more famous as like a movie star or a singer. It's literally become famous as a thought leader who writes and thinks a lot about this sort of stuff that helps people do more of what they want. And because that's a submission, that helps me say no to a few other things where, I had the chance to work at some startup a few weeks ago, and it would have been cool, but it absolutely does not go towards that mission of that, and therefore I said no to it.
Right. Okay.
So I think it's less about kind of the core thing, the main mission statement, and what it helps you say no to, because always that's going to be so vague. Like Microsoft, we empower the world. We're like, okay, what's that going to stop you saying no to? But then
Yeah.
underneath that, there are like objectives which help you figure out what you're going to say yes to and what you're going to say no to. So yeah,
I
I'm thinking a
thought a
lot about
few
that.
months ago you came up with you did a similar exercise with your business coach or something, and you came up with a mission statement at the time about something about happy, healthy, and productive lives or something like that. What
Yeah,
was
that was
that?
more like a sort of mission statement for like my YouTube channel,
Okay.
like an intro spiel. On this channel, we share the strategies and tools uh, to help us live healthier, happier, more productive lives. Words to that effect, which is sort of a sub goal of do more of what matters to you, because doing more of what matters to you requires you to be healthy. Well, it's helpful if you're happy and it's helpful if you're productive.
So if you think you hadn't come up with this mission statement, would you have like entertained this random like startup thing?
Probably not, but because I knew internally that this is the thing that I wanted. But now that I'm sort of in the process of actually writing it down, and actually sort of writing down what are our company values, what are our company goals, etc.
Yeah.
I think the values thing will be interesting, because it will help us be like, okay, why are we saying no to this thing? Oh, because it's not one of our values. yeah, I don't know. The value thing is a whole other kettle of fish.
Is the mission statement useful for the rest of the team?
I feel it would be once sort of the mission statement and like it's well once it's a bit more the layers underneath it are a bit more concretized. Because right now it's a vague mission statement that's like, okay, cool. But that's sort of what we were trying to do anyway. But when we can, if I can, like, what I'm thinking is if I can draw like a tree coming from the mission statement to be like, okay, therefore these are the different ways in which we're doing it, and now each of these, and then these are the different projects under these areas, and this is the person responsible for each of these projects. I think that would be
Yeah.
incredibly helpful for everyone on the team.
Nice. That sounds great. Sounds like you're getting the ROI of the WeWork.
It's also so nice. Like the other day, Angus and I just had like a content brainstorm session on a whiteboard, and it was so helpful just have two people in a room with a whiteboard. Just actually,
Really?
yeah. Um, and we cooked up some solid ideas for videos, and then he came over to my place the next day to be like the cameraman and the director of photography or whatever for videos we were filming that day.
Mm.
And that was like amazingly helpful as well. And it was also like a lot more fun because having been doing this for like 4 years now, I do find it a bit of a drag to like get everything set up and film by myself. And it's always
Yeah.
nice having Sheen to shoot thumbnails for me. It just makes it more fun. But the fact that Angus was there and was also invested in this process made it more of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a be like, all right, let's do this together. And we're like trying to film 3 videos in one day.
Mm.
So now we're going to do this as like a recurring thing where every Thursday or whatever is going to be our filming day, where we have stuff prepared beforehand. Angus comes over in the morning, or we go to WeWork in the morning, set up the cameras, and then we just bang them out.
Yeah.
And I think in that context, it's that thing of like the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Or I think our videos that day were better because Angus was there than had we been in separate places over Zoom or something.
Yeah. Sure. Sure. Yeah. It's always more fun doing stuff with people in person than solo.
How are things on the causal train?
Things are pretty great. Yeah. We've closed some big deals in the past couple of weeks. Yeah. It's been a great month. Basically for Causal, we announced our recent fundraise a couple of weeks ago, which got us a bunch of inbound leads, and we've converted some of those into customers. And yeah, I think we're figuring things out. I think we're now pretty confident that we can that people actually want the thing that we're selling slash building,
Mm.
and that we have found the right people who care about this the most to focus on over the next kind of 12 to 18 months. And now we're kind of trying to optimize various parts of the process. So, a few months ago, our sales process used to be that we do like a sort of, we're trying to sell to the finance team of, say, like a 200-person company, right? And the sales process used to be we do one sort of 30-minute demo call where we kind of learn about their needs and we kind of share them a quick demo of the product. And then if they're interested, we do like this sort of 4-week pilot project with them where we like help them build some stuff in Causal, like their own financial models and things, so they can understand how the product will work for them. And then at the end of this 4 weeks, they'd make like the buying decision of like, do I want to become a Causal customer or not? And that's an awful lot of work. And now we've gotten the sales process basically down to 2 calls, where we do an initial sort of 30-minute demo. If they seem serious and they're interested, then we do a longer sort of personalized demo where, we do a bit of work to set up like a nice example for them in Causal. And then we can kind of go through that in more detail and dig into exactly the features that they care about. And then at the end of this second call, they basically make the buying decision. And so I think optimizing the sales process and like getting it down from like this crazy 4-week thing into this sort of 2-call thing has been like a real breakthrough. And I
Nice.
think the interesting learning there is that I don't know why we were doing this 4-week pilot thing. I don't know why we were doing it. I think we made a bunch of assumptions about like what people care about.
Yep.
And like in January, for example, we were assuming that, okay, people are going to need to, okay, these weren't like assumptions completely out of thin air. They were based
Yep.
on like some conversations and things and a general vibe that we'd gotten. But we assumed that we need some kind of pilot project before people commit to paying money, because like why would anyone just do it without trying it out, basically? So we assume that people need some kind of pilot project. And then we also assumed that during this pilot project, people need to learn how to use Causal. They need to become proficient Causal users during this pilot project. And the pilot project needs to validate the features that they care about. Like, during the pilot project, there's kind of 2 objectives. One is for them to kind of, confirm whether or not Causal can do the things they need. And then the second objective is for them to actually learn how to use causal themselves, such that they can like carry on. And these were just like really wild assumptions because then, after that process, and we did that process with a bunch of people, and very time consuming for everyone, for like the customer, for us. I mean, we learned a ton through it, and it was definitely good. Um, but then after that, we actually decided to ask people. We're still doing the pilot project thing, and so when we'd like say, okay, the next step is that we'll do like a pilot project with you, and then we kind of ask them, so what do you need to get out of the pilot project? Do you care about actually learning how to use causal, or do you just need to like validate that it can do X, Y, or Z? And almost nobody cared about learning causal on the pilot project. Like they just cared about like validating whether it could do X, Y, and Z. And that was groundbreaking because like the learning how to use it, like learning how to use this new tool, that's like it's tricky. It takes a bunch of time. Like it takes like mental effort. And when someone hasn't bought into like buying this product, it's just some like random thing that they do once a week as part of their job. And so actually just asking them like, what would you need to get out of this pilot project, basically. And then then we just thought like, why are we assuming we need to do a pilot project? you know.
Yeah.
And then we just like, for the past couple of weeks, we've just been telling people, after the initial demo, we just say, cool, right? If you're interested, the next step is that we can set up a more personalized demo for you next week. And then we literally just ask them, what would you need to see on this personalized demo for you to then think, okay, this is awesome, and I'm definitely going to buy this. And I think this thing of just like asking people like exactly what they want,
Yeah.
it almost feels like cheating. Like I don't know why we hadn't just been, we'd been doing it in some respects, but yeah, we had a lot of unquestioned assumptions around the structure of these pilot projects and things like this. And now the process is a lot shorter, and we just ask people like, what would you need to see on the personalized demo for you to buy causal? And then they'll say like X, Y, and Z. And then I'm like, okay, so you're telling me if next week we can show you X, Y, and Z, you will become a customer. And then they're like, yeah, honestly, yeah, I mean, that's what I need to see. And it's crazy.
And then, so what do you think in your head? Do you think, okay, we can do X, Y, and Z, or what do you think? Okay, let's build X, Y, and Z before next week.
No, the thing is, we're at the point where we can do X, Y, and Z. We can actually like the product is really good for these people. Like we can actually do. We don't come into any stuff these days that we can't do. Like last year, for almost every customer, there'd be some like random edge case or thing that they need to do that Causal couldn't quite handle.
Yeah.
Like we have all the surface area now. We can actually do, we know what pain points they're going to have. Like we can do everything that they need for the most part.
Have you got a business coach at all?
I mean, somewhat. I mean, yeah, it depends what you mean by business coach.
Do you have someone that you meet with on your own once a week to talk through this sort of stuff with the business?
Yeah, we have we have a sales coach. I think he was a big help in actually questioning these assumptions. He was like, why do you? I think the insight was actually from him of like, why do you think they need to learn how to use causal during the pilots? And I was like, I don't know. So yeah, we have the sales coach who's definitely been really helpful on that front.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we catch up with our some investors on a monthly basis.
Okay.
And I guess that's almost like a business coaching type thing.
Because I was thinking, I reckon you'd actually benefit from a weekly business coach. It's exactly this sort of assumption testing that a good business coach does, where it's like it'll likely be someone who does not have domain expertise in the realm of, I don't know, financial modeling, but they will know enough. Like a good business coach knows enough about businesses to know what the common things are for each business. And
Right.
basically all businesses, all of the things are the same, like, sales, marketing, operations, whatever. And that outside perspective, if they were to be like, okay, like if I were to ask you right now, like, what's your biggest struggle with growing the business? Or what would you say?
I think the biggest challenge is getting people onboarded.
Okay, onboarded as in they've signed up and they've paid and now they need to...
Yeah, now they need to dedicate a bunch of time into like getting set up and learning the ropes and things like that.
So how many people do you have proportionally waiting to be set up?
At the moment, we have like a handful who sort of have paid but aren't quite set up yet.
Interesting. And why do you have to get them set up?
For them to like actually use the products and get value out of it. Basically, there's an upfront time investment
Yeah.
for like switching over to a new tool.
Yeah.
And it's hard for them to make the time slash find the time to do that because they have their regular day-to-day job.
Okay. So what is so for example, a business coach might be asking you this question, then we're going to be like, okay, so what's your process for this, and just sort of just ask you a load of questions,
Yeah.
and most people who I've spoken to about who do this sort of stuff, including me, were like, most, like, if you have like an hour long meeting with a business coach, 59 minutes of it is you just sort of telling them the stuff about your business and just clarifying your thinking. But for 1 minute in that, they might ask you a question that makes you think, oh my God, that's a
Yeah.
really good question. Why the hell are we doing it that way? And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
automatically that, like, that 1 minute in that one call has paid for their whole year's worth of ROI for that business coach.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so it is almost a no-brainer to have at least, one of these calls a week where you can just talk to someone about this stuff for an hour who's got an outside perspective, who doesn't have a horse in the race as such other than wanting you to succeed, and is
Mm.
not like related to the company, related to anyone else in the company, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think this sales coach is essentially playing that role, and it's
okay,
like it's really valuable to have these sort of weekly conversations with him.
nice.
And he also just like is a domain expert on B2B SaaS sales, and so for like the more specific tactical
Yeah,
stuff of like, hey, you should say this in the cold emails, or you should say this on the call. He
yeah,
can also sort of help with that.
nice.
So yeah,
That sounds
I
pretty
think
helpful.
yeah, it's great.
How much are you paying this sales coach, if you're allowed to share?
I think we pay him $500 an hour or something.
Okay, that's very
Yeah, so
reasonable.
it was
Yeah,
on the cheaper end of sales coaches I talked to. But I thought I vibed with him um,
yeah.
the most out of them, and I think like vibing with the other person is
Bit
like there
fun.
was another guy who charged like 1,500 an hour, and on paper his like qualifications were probably a bit better or whatever, but I just felt like I vibed with him less. And
Okay. What made you think you need a sales coach? I didn't
sorry,
realize sales coaches existed.
so actually another founder friend recommended him to us, and I think lots of founders at this stage basically have a sales coach to help figure out the sales process and iron things out and that
Oh,
kind of thing.
okay.
And it
Yeah.
basically just saves you a bunch of time. Like with this other founder friend of mine said that this guy basically saved him somewhere between like 3 and 6 months of floundering around on his own and figuring things out more quickly.
Mm,
And so if you could pay money to like save 3 or 6 months of your life, that's amazing.
okay. Um, I guess the next question is, why not apply the sales coach model to the other aspects of the business?
If the other aspects of the business are fine, I think we've got it covered.
Okay.
I think at the moment it's like the sales side of things that we're figuring out.
Okay.
I think on the product side we're very good. I think on the engineering side,
Yeah.
yeah. But look, we have lots of sort of various advisors and specialists who we do go to about stuff when we need to. Like for example, yeah. But basically, one of the sort of benefits of having a fund invest in your company is that they have like a broad network and they have their own like team of people that can help with stuff. And so
Yeah.
when it came to announcing our fundraise, um, I was sort of working with the head of marketing from the fund who helps with this stuff, and she hooked us up with like some PR agency, kind of working with them to figure out the press release and all this all the kind of stuff that like you wouldn't know yourselves. And
Oh,
so
okay.
for whenever stuff comes up, there are always specialists in our network at hand to help, and so that's all fine. I
Oh, that's
think
really cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess I hadn't quite appreciated that aspect of having a kind of funded startup. Because every time I've had to do stuff, it's always been a case of either I flounder about on my own, or I actively go out and seek someone who can help me with this thing. And
Yeah,
whenever I've actively seeked someone out to help me with their thing, it's just always been helpful.
yeah,
But even now, my default is still to flounder around and try and figure things out myself. So I always have to think, no, hang on, take a
yeah,
step back, find out who can help with this, and just get on a call with them.
yeah. I mean, it's also just like about asking other people in your position what they did. Like the sales coach thing. Like we knew sales coaches existed. Um, I think we actually chatted to one about a year ago, but I think we were too soon for that. Like the product just wasn't really there, and various other things.
Okay.
And so just asking people, and there's a bunch of like mailing lists. Yeah, we have some like investors in London, a bunch of like London companies are part of their portfolio, and there's like a founders mailing list there, and maybe like once or twice a week, someone will send an email around to all the founders saying like, "Hey guys, I'm looking for like a CTO coach or something, or what would you recommend?" Or like, "Hey guys, I'm trying to like do this thing. How has anyone had to deal with this legal thing before or whatever?" And yeah, I think just like
Oh, that's
networks
nice. And then
of
people will just
people.
like reply all and be like, "Oh, I know this person."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. Who'd have thought it? You can send an email out to a bunch of people, they'll hit reply all, and you'll actually get some
Yeah.
useful stuff coming out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
How many people are in the team now?
We are now 6 people full time.
Okay. And are
Yeah.
you like, what sort of management-y stuff are you doing with these 6 people?
I have a weekly one-on-one with our head of business operations. I have bi-weekly one-on-ones with our engineers. And then there's a few kind of recurring meetings that we have. So we have a weekly recurring sales meeting where we just, take stock of what's going on the sales side of things.
Yeah.
We have a bi-weekly, more high-level business planning meeting where we just think about what are the current top priorities. Are we like working on the right things? We have weekly actual like sprint planning where we sit down and figure out exactly what tasks we're doing this week and what our goals for the week are. And yeah, then I have like monthly catch-ups with a few folks. Yeah, I guess those are kind of the management-y things, I suppose.
That sounds pretty good.
We have weekly socials, which are really fun. We've been using this app called like Backyard Games or something. It's just like some online thing where you all like
Yeah.
join this thing and then you can play games together. It's really fun.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I want to start doing a better job at our weekly socials. We sort of had this weekly takeaway night thing, which was fine. But then we were running our live cohort for the YouTuber Academy, and then there was always stuff going on at those times instead. So I want to reinstate like the weekly social in some capacity.
Yeah. A couple of weeks ago, we had everyone had to like make a short kind of PowerPoint about their life story, basically, and that was really cool.
Oh, okay. Whose idea was that?
This was Andrew's idea, one of our engineers. He's our like
Social sector.
social secretary. Yeah.
Nice. Oh, that's a good shout.
Why did your window just open?
Sudden gust of wind.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It's quite a low budget apartment. This place. I've been getting a fair few comments. So I put out a video like last week, 2 weeks ago, called something like 9 passive income ideas: how I make $27,000 per week. And that video started doing really well. And anytime a video does well and starts to go viral, it sort of goes beyond your existing audience of people that are wholesome and nice.
Yeah.
All these comments being like, "Why you live in some lame ass apartment with a roommate? You must be lying about this." Like, you know. I was like, well,
Yeah, I'm always surprised at the squalor that you live in whenever I come around. It's just always a state. There's always some like dodgy smell. The temperature is always messed up.
yeah. Right now,
There's always
Yeah.
freaking clothes being dried in the middle of the kitchen. Like literally every
okay.
time I
So
come.
that's not me these days because I now outsource my laundry. But like, where else does one dry clothes when
I
you don't
don't
have a
bloody
dryer?
know. Get a combined washer dryer.
No, but we've got a built-in washing machine that doesn't have a dryer function, and we have no
Oh.
place to put a dryer. So what's a man supposed to do other than have 2 clothing racks in the middle of the kitchen, obstructing anyone's path trying to walk through? We had them on the balcony at one point, but then we just get super cold on the balcony and then fly away.
Oh god.
Hey, this is a real problem.
Oh. Yeah, because always in your videos, like the room always looks clean, and
Correct. Everything gets shoved off to the side
yeah,
and behind the camera.
yeah. I always imagine like literally outside of frame, there's like a massive pile of shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much the exact situation right now. And I feel it looks all right behind me, but I've got like 4 boxes of Microsoft Surface products over here. I've got a keyboard, cable organizer, another laptop, loads of unopened Apple products over here that you probably can't see, and all of the camera stuff set up over there, which is making this living room look like an absolute tip. I think that's partly why I like going to WeWork, because it's clean and I don't have to look at all the mess.
Yeah.
And then I come back home and I sleep, and it's like, great, I never have to go into the living room to see all the lights and the camera and the mics everywhere. But life of an influencer, man. What can you do?
Yeah. It ain't easy, but someone's got to do it. Are we actually going to have an episode, like a topic? I mean, we've actually been going for like an hour.
Have we? I think this is fine as an episode then. It can be just like our catch-up call.
All right, yeah, I'm happy with this as the episode.
Anything else that's going on? We're officially launching a line of merch now. It's all
Oh, nice.
in the production stage.
Is this a stationary brand?
It's a stationery brand, yeah. It's going to be called Essentially.
Oh,
Yeah.
I like it. That's a lot better than Wasteman or whatever it
Wasteman or
is.
whatever. Yeah. So we have like
Oh,
a really classy logo. Yeah. Um, but like essentially spell ALI at the end.
oh no. You had to ruin it, didn't you?
Hey, it's gonna be good. I bought the domain essentia.li. I'm not sure if people will think it's weird because it's like a Lithuanian domain.
Right.
Uh, Annoyingly, essentially.com wasn't available without spelling.
So what's the process here? Do you basically, so actually one of our customers is a company that helps influencers launch merch brands and things like
Really?
this.
What company is this?
It's called Genflow. So like if you want to like launch your own like clothing brand or whatever, they'll basically do all the work for you.
Oh, yes, I've seen this website before. I think probably because I clicked to it from Causal, if you have them as a case study.
No, they're not on the website at the
Oh,
moment.
okay.
Yeah, so basically, like, if you want to launch a footwear brand or something, you basically go to them and say, "Hey, like, I want to launch this footwear brand." They'll actually like produce all the stuff, charge you like a fee, and take like a small cut of your revenue, and you don't have to like actually launch a footwear brand, or rather, you don't have to build a footwear company. You just like have this brand.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I'm sort of working with this other like YouTuber management agency that a few other friends are part of, and they're sorting out the logistics and the all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
All right, how does the merch fit into the mission, mate?
Because well, it's a good question. I think you find that when you have stationery that helps you plan your day, is literally the definition of helping you do more of the things that matter to you.
Okay.
Take that.
Yeah,
No.
look, look. The reason I'm skeptical of this is that you knew you were going to do the merch thing because, like, it's a thing people do. It's a good, source of revenue or whatever.
No,
Like,
that's not why. Like there are plenty of better sources of revenue than doing the merch. It's not because it's a thing people do. It's because it would just be really freaking cool to have your own stationery brand and be able to like design planners and stuff based on sort of literally custom designed for the way that I like to plan my day. Mostly the cool factor of having a stationery brand and having my own stationery. Like that's just sick. I couldn't care less if we didn't make any money on this.
okay, interesting. Yeah, fair play.
Um, I've started to have this attitude with a lot of the other stuff that we're doing because there are like two aspects of the business, our YouTuber Academy and Skillshare, that generate like 95% of the revenue of the business.
Yeah.
And so it's like anything that doesn't fit into those is almost just like not even worth doing,
Oh, okay,
um,
right.
at least from a revenue generation perspective.
Yeah.
And so the model in my head is always like, well, we're not really making any money from this thing as a proportion of
Okay, sure.
the
Yeah,
overall
yeah,
pie. Therefore, what if we just did it for free, or what if we just didn't do it? What if we like,
yeah, yeah.
partly why I kind of sponsors for this podcast. If it's if we're having to put out an in between episode because we have a sponsor, but the sponsors are such a tiny chunk of the overall revenue of the business, what's the point of having sponsors? Let's just do the podcast and keep it fun and be able to do it whenever we want, rather than having that like limitation from the sponsor like added to it.
Yeah.
So I started thinking about that on all the other aspects of the biz as well.
Nice. Should we? Do you have any insights to share with us this week?
There's one that I'm going to put in my newsletter later today. So, a lot of the people that I coach in terms of YouTubing, so like for example, let's take my magician friend who's now my magic coach, but friend as well. So he went through our YouTuber Academy and he's making videos about kind of how to be a magician, what that's like and stuff. But because he's been doing it for 15 years, he really has the curse of knowledge about it. And the way that he is approaching his channel is like, I need to make a video that would appeal to my magician brethren. And if
I
I'm
see.
making
Yeah.
an online course about how to be a magician, it needs to be legit and it needs to have references and it needs to, you know, include the story of magic. And what he doesn't see, unless someone else points it out to them, is that no one cares about any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
really, like the people that want to learn magic want to learn it because they want to learn something easy that they can learn quickly to impress their friends.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing they care about. They don't really care about the history of prestidigitation or like, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever was going to go into this course or like the references from which specifically which edition of the Genie magazine from 1984 you got this particular trick from and where the inspiration was. Like, no one cares. That's a very kind of only magicians care about this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think this applies to a lot, so much more in our in everyone's lives where if we're doing something kind of like your thing about assumptions, like we have all these assumptions around what people care about
Yeah.
without actually testing whether people care about them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think almost everyone who I've coached and kind of doing YouTube doesn't realize that what's obvious to them can be like amazingly insightful for other people.
Yeah. Sure.
And the thing with this magician guy, Matthew, is that when I put it to him in the context of something that he knew about, he was like, "Oh yeah, that's so true," but he couldn't. It was very hard to take the general principle outside of that context. And what I mean is that as a magician, one of the common tropes is that you could spend like 5 years learning an incredibly complicated sleight of hand thing with a deck of cards,
Yeah.
and you could show it to someone and be like, "Okay, cool." Or you could spend a fiver buying a fake deck of cards and do a
Yeah.
trick that will, oh my God, this is the best magic I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And magicians will like amongst themselves do this thing of like, hey, I spent 5 years learning the center deal, and this is my resource that I learned for that, and I learned it from Di Vernon's original manuscript from 1924.
Yeah.
And kind of when they start performing in the real world, we'll realize, oh my God, no one actually gives a toss.
Yeah.
And when I said that to Matthew, he was like, "Oh my God, that's literally so right. This is what I tell all magicians." But he was outside of that context, like applying it to the YouTube channel was like more of a leap. And so what I've been thinking is that in a similar way, like the domains in which I know this phenomenon exists, like magic or like YouTubing and stuff, what else is there in my life that I am not just taking the wider lesson and applying, and what am I making more of a big deal than it needs to be to satisfy my own assumptions.
Right.
And so this led to a conversation with like Angus and the team around our YouTuber Academy. And basically at every stage of the conversation, I was asking, okay, what's the assumption behind that? And I think it was a bit annoying, but like after this like 1 hour long call, we realized, oh my God, we're doing all these things without having a clear reason for doing them. We could just do it differently, or we could just not do them at all. And I wonder if anyone would actually care. Like, are we just playing the inner game of we're doing it this way because the people in the cohort-based community of courses who have like $2,000 courses, they do it in this way, and they must have a good reason for it. But does anyone actually care? So there was some insight around that of like, remembering to put ourselves into the shoes of the people that we're talking to and thinking, what do they actually care about and what do they want, rather than
Yeah.
what do I think they want based on my assumptions, which are actually just based on a very limited people of network that I have access to.
Yeah, I fully back that. I say I like 95% back that. Like I fully back it in the context of like, this magician guy is making like a course to teach people. And, there the aim is very much to teach people, and if they don't care about, Di Vernon's original manuscript, then you shouldn't have it in there really. But for example, I'd push back against like, I think it is still worthwhile to do some things like learn the center deal for 5 years rather than just buying a fake deck. Like there is such thing as like craft and caring about that sort of for its own sake or for
Yeah.
whatever reason. Like the goal of everything isn't to pander to an audience. I think the goal of like teaching an online course about something is it's obviously very like audience focused. But
Sure. Yeah.
if you're a magician and you just had like a bunch of gimmicks that you bought and you did this thing, yes, you could probably go on some streets and make people laugh, but like you probably care about more than just that at that point, right?
Yeah, I buy that. I think
I
like
was
actually
I've been thinking
defining the
about this.
objective of what is the thing you actually care about and optimizing for
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this in the context of guitar because like I watch these like fingerstyle guitar videos, and I think before I'd picked up a guitar, I never appreciated just how ridiculously difficult it is to do that. Like playing chords is whatever. Like anyone can learn this in a few days. But like, it seems to me like playing fingerstyle guitar, where like just you and your two hands are playing like six different parts of a song, like all together at the same time. Like it just seems unreasonably difficult, and I'd go so far as to say that a lot of the times it seems like way more difficult then it's worth to an audience just listening to it. For example, there's a song called "The Entertainer," which is a ragtime song for piano by Scott Joplin, right? It's a very easy piano piece. Like, anyone can learn The Entertainer on piano, right? That's fine. And it sounds really good. It sounds great. It was made for piano, right? There's a few people on YouTube who have learned The Entertainer for fingerstyle guitar, and the level of difficulty that is just through the roof compared to like how good it sounds. It sounds good, but if you're not a guitarist, you probably have no appreciation for just what a feat that is. And so I kind of think like, man, these guys are obviously in it for the craft, because if they were in this for like, I don't know, just impressing people at parties or something, they would definitely not learn the entertainer figure style, And so I do think it's worth it. I'm glad they're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for them, as long as they're clear that their objective is to do it for the craft. Whereas if they were, for example, a struggling musician busking on the streets and thinking, and if a business coach, for example, were to ask them, "What's your actual objective here?" and they were like, "Look, I just want to make £1,000 a month."
Yeah.
It would be reasonable for the business coach to be like, "Okay, stop spending 6 months of your life practicing the entertainer on fingerstyle.
Yeah.
Learn basic pop songs with 4 chords that people will think, I recognize that song," and give you money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Sure. Exactly.
So I think, yeah, it is just about knowing what's the game that you're playing, and how are you going to play the game. On that note, though, I think I agree for some. What I didn't appreciate about fingerstyle guitar until I started to learn it is that stuff that looks really, really, really hard is often not.
Okay. Yeah.
And a lot of fingerstyle guitar is creating a chord shape and then not moving very much, and
Yeah.
fingerstyling with the right hand with that chord
Yeah.
shape,
Yeah.
which sounds amazing. And if you didn't know that that's what's happening, that you would think that they've just invented this pattern of notes and
Yeah.
with the
For
chord
sure,
shape
for
with a
sure.
bit of.
Yeah. Yeah. I get what you mean. I do get what you mean.
So yeah, figure out what you want and work towards it is the insight, I guess. Which is just so obvious, so as not to be insightful. but
Yeah. What I make.
damn. What about you? Any insights?
I feel like I did have something recently. I've stopped using Roam these days.
Okay.
I just don't care. Well, I'd never actually looked through my Roam stuff. I'd been, putting my little daily journal type thing, putting little events and stuff in there. I never looked at it. What's the point of all this? I mean, maybe it'll be cool to look over at some point, but yeah.
Oh, I look at mine daily. Like, what do you put into it that you're then not looking at?
I used to just like put in any notable events from the day. Actually, I think events are nice to look back on, I guess.
Yeah, like when you're doing your annual review, you can just flick through your Roam or your calendar, and just see. Oh, okay. But in that context, like if it's a notable event, it'll probably have been in your calendar.
Yeah, I don't know. I just hadn't really been getting much value from Roam.
And the thing that I use it for is anytime I have a call with someone, I'll just take a few, put in their name and take a few quick notes, so that 2 months later, when I have another call with them, I'm like, oh yeah, that's what we talked about last
Yeah.
time. Let's ask him about this thing.
Yeah, I've got like a record of all my meetings in Notion and stuff. So yeah, I guess that kind of covers a lot of it.
Yeah. Well, what about like calls with friends and stuff? Do you write about that, or do you just remember?
Yeah, so after like social events, I guess I haven't had like a ton of social events recently. Actually, no, I've had some recently that I didn't make a note of. But yeah, I used to sort of always after a social event like write out who was present, what the topics of conversation were, and stuff like that. And that is interesting to look back on, but I just don't look back on it very often.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, at the moment, it doesn't really sound like you have a lot of use cases for Roam, because you're not really. I think it's particularly good if you're trying to kind of produce knowledge work. I think
Yeah,
if you took notes on all your kids' stuff and put it into Roam, and then you were
yeah,
writing
yeah.
about it,
I do have that
yeah,
stuff in room.
that would be useful.
Yeah,
But beyond that, like just writing, this is what happened to me today, not necessarily particularly useful.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I have any insights, to be honest. We already read out some reviews, so I think we should just
Cool.
call
Be
it
cycling over
quits.
to WeWork, have a chat with my friend Paul, and yeah, good stuff.
Right. Thank you all for listening, and see you next week.
See you later. That's it for this week. Thank you for listening.
If you like this episode, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or on the Apple Podcast website if you're not using an iPhone. There's a link in the show notes.
If you've got any thoughts on this episode or any ideas for new podcast topics, we'd love to get an audio message from you with your conundrum, question, or just anything that we could discuss.
Yeah, if you're up for having your voice played on the podcast and your question being the springboard for our discussion, email us an audio file MP3 or voice note to hi@notoverthinking.com.
If you've got thoughts but you'd rather not have your voice played publicly, that's fine as well. Tweet or DM us at NOverthinking on Twitter, please.
Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.